Good afternoon, folks. I can see people starting to arrive. You're very welcome to this afternoon session. We'll be starting our workshop in just a minute or two, give everybody time to come in. And as you come in and get settled, we'd love it if you could give us a little message in the chat, say hello, maybe tell us where you're joining us from. Sheena and I are joining you today from an unusually sunny Scotland.
Yes.
Still cold, but it's sunny.
Some things don't change.
That's right. So yeah, please do pop a little hello in the chat box for us. We'd love to know. Hello, hello from Surrey, England. Lovely. Thank you for joining us.
Elvira from London. Oh, Belgium.
Hot chocolate. That sounds just lovely.
Deluxe and hot chocolate. We'll take both of them any day. Wiltshire and Twickenham as well. Hi, Regina.
Right.
Oh, Adele's in Edinburgh. Hope it's as sunny for you as it is for us, Adele.
And welcome to Alison, an original Scot. You're very welcome to join us today.
And so is Heidi. Even if you're not an original Scot, you're still welcome.
Oh, and it's cloudy in Maidstone.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Well, we would send some of our good weather down to you, but we get it so rarely here that we're going to hang on to it. I hope you can all understand our accents. Actually, we've got Scottish and Irish going on here, so we're very whole UK going on here. We'll try and speak slowly enough. Thank you, Maria.
Fantastic. That's good.
Interesting, Ollie.
We're winning already, Sheena, if they like our accents. So that's great.
Hi to Natalia as well from London.
Very much so, very proudly Northern Irish. Absolutely. So I think probably, and hello to Julia from Brighton, you're very welcome. Yeah, apologies. You'll probably hear quite a lot of wheeze. As we
not the French version either.
Definitely not. So I think, Sheena, what do you think? I think it's time that we make a start for everyone. So good afternoon to everyone that's joined us. You're most welcome to our session this afternoon. We'd like to give you a little bit of background both to ourselves and to this afternoon's session. So this session is called Languages in Your Career. This session is designed and aimed for our target audience, which is learners. And the rationale behind it is really a supporting mechanism for teachers in schools to join in on this online session at those crucial times whenever learners are faced with option choices. So the idea is that as we go through the session, we hope you'll see that it's an encouraging session, encouraging young people to really think seriously about languages as an option, regardless of whatever your career aspirations are. Highlighting the employability benefits of languages as well as the personal benefits today. And so for the context of this session, we are going to do this just like it was the real deal. We've done this workshop for many thousands now of learners over the last couple of years. And we work in partnership with eSchool, which is an online school here in Scotland. But really, we have done this workshop nationally for many different classes, schools, entire year groups have joined in, logged in for this session. And again, we're really trying to target that particular group at whatever transition point they're at, where languages become an option. And it's been really popular. So we hope that we'll give you a flavour of that today and that you'll enjoy the session. So let's make a start. Languages in your career. We're going to talk to you today a little bit about languages as a journey and how it can help you on your career journey. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. First of all, I'm Lisa Hanna. I'm the Deputy Director of Scotland's National Centre for Languages. Sounds very grand, haven't always had the grand job title. And languages have been a key feature throughout my career, right from the little tiny village I grew up in Northern Ireland to living in the big metropolis of Glasgow now and working at the University of Strathclyde. I have studied Spanish, French, Irish, Latin, Italian, many languages at different points throughout my career. Languages have they took me right from Northern Ireland to Scotland for university and way beyond. I've travelled loads and loads, and it has helped me so much to be able to communicate and speak different languages. I've been a teacher, but very much the key message of this lesson is languages don't just equip you to be a teacher. I have been a van driver. I have worked in retail. I have worked in the wine industry. I've done lots and lots of different things. So languages have been there as a key step every step of the way. I'm going to hand you over to Sheena, my partner in crime for today, and she is going to tell you a little bit about her languages journey. Sheena.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, so similarly to Lisa, I work in Scotland's National Centre for Languages. I'm a development officer there. But again, this has not always been my job, although languages, I would say, have been my passion from a really early age. I first learned French when I started high school and was absolutely fascinated by it, all these different sounds that I could make, and I just wanted to learn more and more languages. So when I was at school, I went on to learn a few other languages, German, Latin and Italian, and then I went to university to study French and Italian. Before I went into teaching, which is the job that I did before my current job, I did a variety of other jobs in different countries as well. I worked as a learning assistant in a school in France. I worked in a bookshop in Italy. I've done some translating for a court case in Italian as well, which was really interesting to do. I've worked in shops, hotels, all sorts of different places where I've used my languages. And I've also used them a lot as I've been traveling. So languages have helped me personally and professionally as well to get a job doing the things that I love. And that's something that we're going to be talking quite a bit more about today. Is there anything else you want to say on this slide before I move on, Lisa? Or shall I just...
I think let's just get to it, Sheena. The big question's coming right up.
Yep, let's just get going. So first of all, languages in your career. Well, where can languages take you? And when we talk about that, we're not just talking geographically, we're talking about your careers in this country as well. I would say, in spite of the fact that I've lived abroad and I've travelled in other countries, I've still used all of the languages that I speak nearly more in this country than I have anywhere else. So you don't have to think, well, I'm not going to go and live in Spain, so I don't need to learn Spanish. Actually, living here, for us normally in Scotland, but living in the UK, we have so many opportunities to use languages on almost a daily basis, particularly depending on the jobs that we do. So what we're going to be thinking about today, this is a slightly shorter version than our usual session, but we're going to be thinking about which career, if we say languages in your career, which career do we mean? What kind of things are we talking about? And then we'll think about, well, why would these careers use languages? And then, having considered all that, we'll think about which language. So if you're doing a particular language at the moment, is that the right one? Should you be doing a different one? So we'll come on to that later on. First thing that I want you to think about, though, and have a little thought in your mind as we go through the rest of the session, what makes us choose the job that we do? You might not know if you're a learner at school, or if not, if you're pretending to be for the purposes of today. You might not know exactly yet what you want to do. I would guess you might have a pretty clear idea of what you don't want to do. I certainly knew very early on a lot of jobs that I had no intention of doing whatsoever. So you might have a really good idea of the kind of job you don't want to do. You might know what you want to do. So I want you to think just now, and if you want to put it in the chat, we'd love to see it. What would be your ideal job? This will be a fun one. Lisa, what would be your ideal job if you weren't doing what you are just now?
You see, now somebody mentioned hot chocolate earlier. I've always thought I'd make an excellent chocolate taster.
That does sound like a good one. That does sound good. Oh, some intelligence linguist. That's a great job. Ollie's very keen on. You're doing your ideal job already. Well, I probably would say for myself, I am. Teaching is just something that I love doing. I think our ideal job covers the things that are up on the screen here, as you can see, something inspiring, something that you want to do every day. It's not a drag to get up in the morning and go and do it because it inspires you. You love to do it. It challenges you. Nobody really wants to be in a job that's just doing the same thing over and over without any variety or challenge. And you want it to be interesting. And let's be honest, we're not doing it for charity either. So we want a job that pays at a good level, or the level that's enough for us at any particular time. And we'll be thinking again later about how that can help in terms of languages too. So whatever job you've thought about at this point, keep it in mind. There's some great ideas. Visual poetry artist, I love that one. Public speaking in different languages too. Yeah, that's definitely a challenging one, isn't it? So many great ideas there. So keep that in mind as we look at the rest of the session. So our next thing is, if we're thinking about languages and your career, so our question would be, which career? So I've got a wee challenge for you to do next. There's that word "we" already. Which of these people do you think are doing a job, are not doing a job, I should say, that uses languages? So at least one person of the 6 that are pictured here is doing a job that does not use languages. Which one or ones do you think it is? And you can just put the number into the chat if you want. It's not a trick question. It's not a case of they all use languages. There is at least one person there who does not use languages in their job. Oh, we've got a
wee bit of a variation here, Sheena. I like it.
That is good. Yeah, we've got a bit of everything going on. A lot of people are going
number 2.
Yep.
Oh, there's somebody saying that's the first number 3. We've got a number 5. I think we've all got.
Can't tell what 5 is. 5 is a musician. So if you look at the background of 5, if it depends how big your screen is, of course, there are some guitars behind him and he's playing a guitar at the moment. No, they don't. That's Lucia or Lucia. They don't all do. That's definitely not a trick question. And another vote for 2.
Yeah. It's pretty evenly spread, but I think number 2, Sheena, is coming out as the top answer here.
Top answer. Well, I can tell you that number 2 is a very good friend of mine. Her name's Susan Young, and she's an outdoor education instructor. She works here in Scotland and she takes groups up mountains, round all sorts of interesting places, doing climbing and so on. She also has a degree in French and Russian, and the majority of the groups that she takes around the country are particularly from France, certainly at the moment. She takes a lot of French groups who come over to Scotland for the beautiful scenery that we have. If you haven't been, you definitely need to, and takes people around the islands. She takes them up mountains. She goes all sorts of different outdoor activities with them, and she uses her language all the time because she helps them as kind of like a tour guide. She helps them to navigate their way around the country and in different situations. So she actually uses her languages loads in her job, but she also gets to combine it with doing something that she really loves. She's a passionate outdoor kind of person, and she can use languages, but she also loves, but she can do all of these things that she really enjoys. So that's definitely not the correct answer. It's not number 1 either. Number 1 is David Roger, and he is an Amazon area manager for Munich. He's originally from Scotland, and he did German at school, loved it, and decided that he was going to go and work in Germany. So he now works in Germany with Amazon. He started working with them here and then was promoted as an area manager. So it's not him either. It's not number 3. His name is Josh Martin, and he's a racing driver. He also has a degree in languages. I'm just going to say it's German and one other language that he does. He also did psychology too. So he's got a really interesting background, and he uses his language for particularly the touring circuits that he goes around. He spends a lot of time in Germany. It's not number 4 either. Number 4 is Sharsden, who's a creative director for Vidal Sassoon in Scotland and uses languages a lot. He speaks a number of different languages. I'm not even going to try and tell you all of the different languages that he speaks. He uses them sometimes with customers, but a lot of the time he uses them to go around hair shows and sort of trade shows in different countries and to welcome people who come to those in this country too. It's not number 5 either. Number 5 is Fraser Fulton, and he's a musician. Yes, Brunta has got it spot on there. Process of elimination, it was going to be number 6, but you're absolutely right. That's Daniel, and he's a geography teacher. So the globe there was a bit of a red herring. He doesn't use languages in his day-to-day job. No, it wasn't quite a trick question. There was one person who doesn't use languages, but it was a trick photo, I guess, Maria. So he is a geography teacher, doesn't use languages daily, but Fraser does because he tours a lot, and actually a large amount of his fan base is also in Germany. So Germany's getting quite a few shout outs with this. So you might be surprised that the pictures here don't really look like what you would imagine somebody who's doing a job with languages looks like. And just to give you a bit more information about that, I'm now going to tell you the top 5 careers which use languages. Now, if I were to get you to guess which ones do you think are going to be number 1, I'm going to predict that a lot of people would say things like teaching or translating. It's not the case. This, according to data from the Higher Education Research Council, I think that's the right name, is it, Lisa? I haven't written it down here. You keep me right if I said that wrong.
Yeah, no, you're right.
The top career is business and finance. So maybe not what you would have expected. Business and finance is an area where a lot of trade, as you can probably imagine, goes on using different languages. And following very closely from that, the second largest employer of people with a language qualification or ability is marketing and sales. So they're quite closely linked there, aren't they? You can see how if you're trading with another country, if you're trading across, continents or geographical boundaries, it's really important to be able to communicate effectively. And these areas are ones where there's a lot of international business goes on. If you're working in a company and they do any kind of trade out with the UK, you're immediately going to have to use other languages. Education does come in at number 3, so as teachers do get a little shout out here. And obviously without teachers, we wouldn't have the people who are skilled in languages then to go on and work in business and finance and marketing and sales and all these other areas. So big shout out to the other teachers like ourselves there who are preparing the workforce of the future. So if you happen to be here as a learner and you're with your teacher, give them a big thank you, because it's thanks to them that you're going to be looking at all sorts of opportunities for the future. Art, design and media is maybe another area that you wouldn't necessarily expect. There's a lot around, particularly if you think of journalism, that maybe seems a more obvious one, but around art and design, fashion, there's so much international work that goes on and international collaboration that languages are really, really important. Coming in at number 5, we have retail and hospitality. So anything to do with either at the shop face, if you like, the front door greeting customers in either retail or hospitality, or in management within these areas, that's also really important as well. Brunta, you hang in there. I'm going to give you 6 to 10, and you can see that, yeah, Lisa's saying that's coming up. The rest of the top 10, so that you can see where all of the sort of priorities lie, if you like, the areas in which we really, really need linguists. Translators, very important. We always do say this when we're talking about translators, it's great to have a career as a translator. That's obviously a really, really important job. But for a lot of companies, they don't necessarily want to pay a translator to do something if they have somebody within the company, the business or the organization that has that capability themselves. So if you go to an interview, for example, and you want to be a journalist or you want to be an engineer, if you can be an engineer with a language, that's going to be much more marketable for your company, because they don't then need to get a translator in to translate the bits that you can't do in another language. So it's about, yes, be a translator, but also you can be a translator, if you like, in your day-to-day work as a nurse or as an engineer or whatever other capacity. And speaking of engineering, there it is. That comes in at number 7 in terms of the most important jobs that happen with languages, or the biggest number, if you like, with languages. Similar kind of sciencey ones are coming up in the next few as well. So health workers, that covers the whole range of doctors, nurses, paramedics, people working in hospitals in any capacity, social work and so on. So you can imagine really in these kind of emergency situations, people would be so reassured to have someone speaking their language. And that applies in this country, whether, here or abroad. A friend of ours who has done other presentations for us before was a consultant at the Royal Infirmary in Glasgow, which is Glasgow's main hospital, and used languages every day. He learned a whole load of different languages. I can see someone's popped a huge list of languages that they speak in the chat. This consultant could speak almost as many because it just became the thing that he really wanted to do. He wanted to be able to communicate with people who came in, you know, to see him in a stressful time in their life. IT workers is one that's maybe predictable, that the World Wide Web by its very definition is worldwide. You don't want to have to put your web page through Google Translate, you know, for a version of it to come out for another country. So IT, anything in IT, whether it's web design, that whole area, or whether it's in IT support, it's really important also to have languages. And last but not least, and remember, this is still the top 10 of jobs. So this is the top 10 key jobs. We have scientists generally, and we always say to learners, you know, if you think of some of the recent projects that we know of where there have been collaborations, so things like the vaccine that came recently after COVID, that was done as an international collaboration with a number of different countries. We can't presume that everybody speaks English. Actually, only 25% of the world's population speak English. So that's a huge number of other people who don't, or who have very, very limited capability of speaking within English. So if we can offer them communication in their language as well, that's a huge step forward towards collaboration, towards better working across sectors. So that gives you an idea of some of the careers, and Lisa's going to take over and tell you a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're still on the question of which career. And we don't just want you to take our word for it. You know, we can do all the research and all the top 10s and things like that, but you can go and find out for yourself. And at this point, we invite our learners to either now or after today's session, go away and have a bit of a Google and see what you can find, see what's out there right now for people who have language skills. And there are loads of job search sites like Indeed or Reed or Total Jobs, or here in Scotland, we would advise S1 Jobs, but there are loads of them. And if you go in and type in language skills, the range of jobs is really eye-opening. The numbers of cool jobs, different jobs, things that you wouldn't necessarily think of that require a little bit of language skill right now, real jobs. Just as before Sheena and I came on, we did this again. We do this every time we do this session. Have a quick Google and see what's going on. And we've seen at the moment there are language skills required for nursing jobs. There's a manager of a luxury residential development, jobs in the stock market, in publishing, finance, research chemists, games developers, checking language and cultural content on different gaming platforms. Languages are desirable for a lot of these, maybe not essential, but they will certainly make you stand out from the crowd, both at application and interview stage. So like we say, don't just take our word for it, go away and have a wee Google yourself. Again, staying in that same vein, on the next slide, we've got an actual example for you, and this is Caris. Caris is a friend of ours. She's a friend of ours through the University of Strathclyde, and we want to share with you a wee just excerpt from Caris talking about her career. Caris works for Chivas, very famous Scottish drinks company, exporting all across the world, and she uses her language skills alongside marketing and branding. So languages is an additional skill that she has that complement her other subjects and skills. But you don't want to listen to me. Let's hear from Caris herself.
Just before I put Caris on to play, actually, Lisa, I was just going to say, I see Lorenzo's put a wee comment in the chat saying the proportion of people who speak English is less than 25%. Actually, Lorenzo, 25%, but that includes English native speakers. That's not people who can speak English as a foreign language, if you like. So that includes the population of the UK, includes the population of the United States. We count them as speaking English. We're very generous that way. You know, Australia, Canada, other countries like that. So that 25% of the world includes all of the native speakers as well. So I thought I'd just clarify that before I put Caris on to play. So I hope that explains that a little more.
Great.
My name is Caris Simpson and I am a recent languages graduate. For as long as I can remember, I've had a real passion for studying languages. I enjoyed learning French at primary school And then in my third year of high school, I had the opportunity to study Spanish, and then I studied Italian in my final year of high school. And it was during this time at high school that I decided that a degree in languages was my desired path. I chose a degree in French and Spanish because I wanted to have the opportunity to experience working and living anywhere in the world. And since leaving high school, my studies have enabled me to do this. I've spent time in Jerez in Spain and in Quebec in Canada working as an au pair. And I've also spent time in Granada in Spain working as a language assistant in a secondary school. These experiences have without doubt made me a more confident and well-rounded candidate when it comes to applying for jobs, and they have created opportunities in my professional life. By working and living abroad, you enhance a vast number of qualities that are valued greatly by employers. You demonstrate your ability to adapt to new challenges, to embrace other cultures, and to communicate with different types of people. Joining a foreign workforce also gives you the chance to develop your abilities at being intuitive and thinking on your feet. Since graduating from university, I have secured employment as a brand ambassador for an international wine and spirits company. It is certain that my degree in languages and the transferable skills that I learned during my studies and whilst working abroad have contributed to me obtaining.
Sorry.
So like I say, that's straight from Caris.
To study a degree in languages was the best decision I could have made. And if you have a passion for languages, a desire to work overseas and experience different cultures, I couldn't recommend this pathway more. My name is...
Sorry, Lisa, that was my fault. I paused it a little bit early. I was trying to avoid that wee picture coming up there.
Not a problem. But like I say, really, you know, this is to share from someone who's actually really close to a school learner's age, that is going, you know, that's not that much further ahead in their career, and to consider that in Caris's case, yes, it was about doing a languages degree first and then building in other skills, but it works equally as well the other way. You know, if you're thinking about doing some kind of course or studies in a different discipline, please do remember and consider that adding languages to that at another point in your career is hugely important. And what gives you the ability and the confidence to be able to do that is a really good foundation from school. That's what will make it feel like it's achievable. So at this stage in your career, when you're thinking about those transitions, what am I going to do next? Languages needs to be right in there if you want to be competitive. On the next slide, we're going to get you to think a little bit about particular different careers. And remember, right at the very beginning, Sheena asked you to think of what's your ideal job. So if you think about that in mind, or if you're not quite sure, if you don't have an ideal job, that's okay too. We've given you some examples here. What about a nurse? What about an engineer or a games developer or a pilot? In the chat, if you want to even pick one and have a think about how would they use languages? Can you think of a situation where a nurse or an engineer or whatever you want to be, how could you use your languages? And it would be great if you can share that with us. I love it. Straight in, lovely from Adele there. Nurse can communicate with patients from a variety of backgrounds. And remember what Sheena said about her consultant friend. Absolutely. It's so important. People are vulnerable in a health setting, you know, and it's really comforting for them. How much more comforting to be able to talk to someone in their own languages. Absolutely. Engineering can work abroad. The travel options are all there, aren't they?
There's a great point there about Microsoft and IT. So that's from Lorenzo. An IT person couldn't get a job with Microsoft because they would only hire candidates who could work in at least 2 languages.
I know. It's amazing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I love, there's from the other side, from Laurie, I love that. So delighted whenever she was in hospital in Luxembourg that her nurses could speak French. And that's big, lovely, big capital letters. That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing, Laurie. So we've been thinking about which career. So if we move it on, Sheena, really, what's the answer? Which career can you use languages in? For me, and I think hopefully we've shown for you as well, the answer can be Any, no matter what you want to be, languages has a place in there for you. Okay, we had 3 questions for you right at the beginning, didn't we? And we're going to move on to the next one just now. So we've thought about which career, and now we're going to think about why languages. And I'm going to start with a big, huge number. Look at that, 48 billion. And it's actually more than that, it's 48 billion pounds. That's a massive amount of money. And I'm just going to tell you, just to set it in context, 48 billion pounds is the amount of money that businesses say they are losing every year because they do not have enough employees that speak languages. That's an enormous amount of money. And Sheena loves this kind of thing. She's worked out that with that amount of money, you could build nearly 2,000 new schools. You could run the whole of the NHS for 5 months. And that's the amount of money that, according to a Confederation of British Industry survey, 77% of exporters have said they've lost business, and that's the amount of business that they've lost because of lack of language skills. So just imagine if you're a learner in school, whatever area of work you want to go into, you are going to be super, super valuable if you can add that languages aspect to try and help stem that tide of losing all that money out of the economy. 48 billion pounds. Wow. And you can be part of stopping that money being lost. Amazing, eh? But it's not just about money, is it? And on the next slide, we can see that there are all sorts of different benefits, personal benefits for you as a language learner that you can see as everyday life as part of just your general all-round development. This slide it is an American slide, so it's a little bit sort of different, but we put it in anyway because we think that a lot of the things there are just leap out at you. Sheena, I don't know what leaps out at you. I mean, I don't want to, I'm giving away stuff about myself. I should be saying test scores, shouldn't I? But higher earnings, ooh, now that's a benefit, isn't it? Look at all these positive words though that come from language learning. Success at college. Language learners have proven to achieve better in tests and assessments. Employability is affected positively by the ability to learn a language. But not only that, it has actual personal benefits as well. It's healthy. It's good for your self-esteem, for your confidence. It's good for your ability to listen. There are studies, and I know that Sheena, you're quite into this, right? The idea of memory.
Yeah, and the effect of learning a language on your long-term brain health. I always describe it in a completely unscientific way. So please, scientists here, you might want to switch your ears off for just a little minute because this is such a bad analogy, but it makes sense to my non-scientific mind. If you think of the brain like a muscle, basically, and when we're young, we're training it and we're working that muscle hard because we're learning our own home language. And then while we're still learning other languages in school, we're kind of keeping it ticking over, we're keeping fit with it. If we stop, then that particular muscle gets flabby, basically, like muscles tend to do, because we're not exercising it. But if we can keep it active through specifically language learning is the key to keeping that part of our brain fit and healthy, then it stays healthy longer, and that has a long-term benefit that's been proven through studies on our brain health, on our, as it says, the recovery from anything like a stroke or, delaying the onset of Alzheimer's, but it also just keeps our memory going. So for me, it's about keeping my brain fit, and that's why I carry on learning languages now. And as scientists, if you've covered your ears, you can start listening again. I will no longer say that your brain is a muscle.
Absolutely. And it's not all about money, but hey, it's worthwhile knowing, isn't it, that in a World Economic Forum survey, men who have another language earn 3.6% more. Women who have another language earn up to 6.6% more, even if they don't use that language for work. So it shows, language learning shows that you can be perseverant, you know how to persevere, that you have cognitive powers and abilities. all of these qualities that make you a great person to employ. And think about it, if you were an employer, wouldn't you want someone who had a healthier brain and a better memory and more confidence, and they were dedicated and they were able to persevere in their learning? I think I would. And talking about that, we've got a quote here from someone who works very closely with the recruitment industry. This is from a guy called James Barrett. It's a quote done as part of an employer survey report. There was loads and loads and loads of information here, but we loved this quote because look at what it says here. It can be really hard to stand out from the crowd, but clearly highlighting important skills is one of the best ways for candidates to do this. Now, bear in mind, this is a recruitment manager. This person's entire job, James Barrett's entire job, is finding the right people to work for companies and finding the right companies for people to go and work at. He says that additional languages are a great example of this. And he goes on to say that this is an increasingly multicultural world and business environment that we are operating in. So being multilingual is very attractive. From being able to communicate with different teams and offices across the world, to translating important documents and being able to read and write and communicate in another language. It's hugely important. So why languages? It's good all round. It's good for the economy. You can help to stop all that money flooding out of this country, and it gives yourself the opportunity to be that bridge for bringing more trade in. It's good for you and your career because businesses want you if you can speak languages. So all around, it's good for you because it's good for your health, it's good for your mental health, and it's good for your career prospects. Sheena, I think I'm going to hand back to you now because we're going to have a think about which language, right?
Exactly. So hopefully, having seen all this, you can see now the connections that could be made between the kind of job that you're interested in and languages. You can see why languages would be useful and all these reasons that Lisa's just showed. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, okay, then which language should I be taking? Is there a most important language to be learning? Well, that's what we're going to look at in the next slide. I'm going to give you another little challenge. Here's 10 different languages. Can you put them into the correct order that the UK needs them? So this is according to a British Council study, and by need, they define that as crucial importance for the UK's future prosperity, security, and influence in the world. So what would be the order, do you think? We'll give you a wee minute just to think about that. If you're feeling particularly brave and you want to, type the whole 10 in order into the chat, then go for it. That's probably a lot to do on a Friday afternoon. So feel free even to just put the top one you think might be at the top or the top 2 or 3 or something like that. Oh, there's some answers coming in already. So this is the order that the UK needs, remember, for prosperity, security, and influence in the world. So these things Lisa was talking about, like the economy, political.
I'm just smiling at you. I can never remember.
I know I should get you to go for the answer, shouldn't I?
I know, it's so funny. I get a great surprise every time because it's, and all the ideas that everybody's putting in the chat, they seem right, Yep. Oh,
well done. Going for the top, full 10 there.
No. Lots of great ideas
There
here.
are. I'm not going to give you too much longer because we've still got a couple of other things to finish off with. So I will go over the answers just in a little minute and you can see how correct or otherwise you are. So let's go in reverse order, like every good chart countdown should be. Coming in at number 10. At the moment, we have Russian. Actually, the chart, if we can call it that, the top 10 does change whenever this study is released. The last time there were another sort of couple of different ones. So Turkish, for example, was in the top 10, but that's dropped out. And Dutch wasn't there, and it's now in. There are a few others that are bubbling under, they could be new entries next time. So Polish, Hindi, Malay, things like that. But at the moment, Russian is at number 10. So coming in at number 9, we have Japanese. I think quite a few people were kind of getting Japanese round about there. Followed closely at number 8 by Portuguese. Number 7 is Dutch, so it jumped right into the top 10 at number 7. followed by number 6, we have Italian. Number 5 is German, so we're getting into the top 5 now. It's all the close-fitting ones. What's going to be next? Tension builds. Number 4 is Arabic. Number 3, French. So we're down to the last 2 now. Is it going to be Mandarin or Spanish? I know you could do a drum roll for us there, Lisa. In second position is Mandarin, which means in number 1, it's Spanish. Now, you might be looking at that and thinking, oh, Spanish is number 1. Well, I'm actually doing French just now, or I'm doing Portuguese just now, or I'm doing German. You might not be able to learn all of these just now, or any of them, but at the moment, what you are learning for our learners is you're learning how to learn a language. And I don't know what you would think, Lisa, but for me, I would say the first language that I learned, which was French, was the hardest, because once you can learn one language, you've got an idea of how they all work. You know how the grammar generally works. You've got an idea of the structure of it. You've got the idea of changing endings. You know, a lot of languages work in that kind of a way, and of different tenses and things like that. And once you can do one, you can do more. Because I find now I still love learning languages, and I've constantly got several ongoing in Duolingo at any given time. And it does get so much easier. You might notice that if you've learned, say, French first and then you learned Spanish, you probably found Spanish easier, not just because it might be an easier language, but because you knew things about word order, you knew how to put sentences together in another language, you knew how to practice vocabulary and learn tenses and things like that. Well, Ruth, that's a good question. I only have the top 10 here at the moment, I'm afraid. It will be there, because that's the other point. It varies so much, and an employer will want necessarily one specific language. They want to know that you can learn a language, so that whatever language they need you to learn, they'll think, well, this is somebody who has a qualification in German. So I think they would then be able to learn another language that I need them to for my particular business or company, because that's how it'll tend to work. There'll be certain companies that work more within certain countries than others, and so on. So what employers want more than anything is to know that you can learn a language. They also don't need you to be fluent in it. And that's something that I learned fairly recently when I was speaking to people from the French Chamber of Commerce in Paris. And what they said very clearly is they're not looking for people to work with them, either here or there, who are necessarily fluent in French, because their point was, well, we can teach them that. They can learn that just by working with us. We need them actually for their English skill, because we're not fluent in English. We might be able to speak some, but our English isn't great. We need their English skill as native speakers, and we'll help them with any French that they need. We just need them to have enough to get by. So it doesn't need to be fluent as well. You don't need to do a degree to be able to carry on studying and learning a language and, be able to work with it. So the answer to the question of which language, you may be guessing what's coming next from some of the previous slides, is any. Any language shows that you have that ability. It works that muscle again. Sorry, I should have given a warning to scientists, stop listening there, but it keeps that muscle working, which means you're fit enough to learn whatever language an employer needs you to for any given time. I think it's back to you again, Lisa. I'm so sorry. There's so many great messages coming into the chat, and we just can't pick up on all of them as they're coming in. But thank you so much. Fascinating messages coming in. And I'm going to hand back to Lisa for the next little bit. We're almost done.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we said at the beginning, this workshop is designed to be beamed into classrooms all over Scotland. And that's the way that we've been working it. So we have a class, say, of could be 20, could be 30, has been over 100 if they've done it for a whole year group, different learners. And right there with them, they have their own person that they can quiz about their languages journey. So this, with the agreement of the teachers, we should say, Sheena, we never like to shock them into this. But at this point, we invite the students to, once we're finished, or once we're off this call, please, you've got someone right there in the room with you who's a languages teacher who has had their own languages journey. Why don't you ask them? What countries have you visited? What's your languages journey been like? I'm sure they'd be more than happy to share that with you. So we would encourage you to not just ask a teacher, ask whoever, ask people, because everybody has a journey with languages. So ask them, what has languages meant to you? What did you learn at school? Have you ever used languages? Where have you traveled to? And see where their languages journey has taken them. So before we finish up, Sheena's got one more wee question for you, right, Sheena?
I do. This is a question which we set our learners to go away and think about, not necessarily to give us answers in the chat or anything like that just now, but the last thing that we really pose to them is, what about you? Hopefully we've given some things to think about in our session. So as we come to the end, what we want you to think about is to go away and think, what about you? What career or area of work are you interested in? And can you see now a bit more how learning a language might help? And hold that thought as you consider your choices for the next stage in your school journey or in your career, and take that with you. And we wish you all the very best in your languages journey. So that's how we would finish off. Our contact details are here, and they'll be on the slide that you'll be able to see afterwards. If you're interested in getting in touch with us, either to ask a bit more about our presentation or to ask more about languages in your career and how we can make that case for employability in schools, we would love to hear from you and to connect with you. So thank you very much for coming along, for participating in our session, for all the great answers and comments in the chat, and hopefully it's maybe given you something to think about as well in terms of your own languages journeys, which sound absolutely fascinating from the chat. So we wish you very well in your ongoing languages journeys as well.
Absolutely. And one final thing, we'd be very happy to share these materials if it's something that you feel, if you're in a context where you're wanting to appeal and get your learners thinking about carrying on their languages journey, do get in touch with us. We'd be happy to share the materials with you. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be with you today. Really Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was just going to say there's a little question in the chat from Adele. I don't know if you noted, not in the chat, it's in the Q&A part, Lisa. I don't know if we want to maybe that just now. So Adele says it's great to hear about these career options, but if you type French or Spanish as a keyword in the search bar, the majority of jobs shown will be poorly paid, less desirable jobs. I would probably say, just even from the slide that we showed, Adele, where we did exactly that, and we do that sort of fairly regularly, there's a reasonable range. We tend to type languages rather than a specific language. That tends to bring up a little bit more in terms of the variety of it. But, you know, we've come across everything from research chemists to, you know, you name it. There's so many different jobs. In terms of finding rewarding jobs where they can use their language skills, I think they are there. I think university career fairs are quite good if it's someone who does a degree, at introducing to people with sort of different connections. It's something that we can help with, Adele. If I remember correctly, I think you're in Edinburgh. So if you wanted to get in touch with us, it's something that we can help with too, in terms of some contacts that we have within particularly the Scottish workforce of organisations like Chivas that Caris was speaking to us from earlier on, where they use languages, and we can give examples of that for learners if that's helpful at all. I don't know if that answers your question. Lisa, do you want to add any more to that?
No, I think just exactly what you're saying, Sheena. And I think the other thing is as well is that, you know, for the learners that we're appealing to, for example, secondary 1, secondary 2, are mostly the transition audience that we're appealing to. And sometimes, you know, the reality of the world of work is very far off for them. And I think more the message that we want to get through is, you know, that choosing languages doesn't limit you to being a translator or a teacher. It also, you know, there's a wide variety of jobs that you can do, and that there actually are jobs there for people that have language skills right across the spectrum, from, you know, the most high-flying of jobs to, you know, the most regular of jobs. And I think that's very much the message that we're trying to get across.
Yeah, Adele's put a message in the chat. Please do get in touch, Adele. We'd love to hear from you. We do a lot of work, as you can probably gather from today, around employability and languages. So if there's anything we can help with, we'd love to hear from you. I don't know if there are any other questions that anyone wants to add.
Don't think anything else is coming through in the Q&A.
So in that case, I think we'll wish you all a very enjoyable rest of the afternoon. It's been lovely to meet you, and hopefully our paths will cross on our languages journeys at some other point in the future too. So thank you again, Bon après-midi.
Thank you very much, everyone. Merci, gracias. Guramahagat. Agus sláinte. I had to get a wee bit of Irish in, Sheena.
Get your Irish. Prego, Francesca. Want to know what that means now, Becky?
No, I'm immediately gonna look that up.
Yes.
I wonder, was Becky one of the people learning Thai?
Is it Thai, Becky? Sorry, you've got us intrigued now. We're heading off
I'll
to
have to
Duolingo to do that.
Thai.
classes.
Oh yes, thanks,
Yeah,
Becky.
yeah. I think we'll just end the session just now and let you go off and enjoy the next session that you're heading to. But thank you all very much again.
All the
Thanks.
best, everyone.
Au revoir.